First of all, I want to thank you all for coming today. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. I'm with friends. Public speaking is not something I feel comfortable doing. But when I first heard about International Overdose Awareness Day, I just felt like I was supposed to do something. I was called to do something. So I'm going to tell my story. And I'm just going to, I started and all weekend I worked on a speech and I did research and I was like, what am I going to say? And I'm going to have facts and all of that. And Monday night as I was laying in bed, just ruminating, on this, I just kept hearing Michael say, just tell my story. Just tell my story. Just tell my story, Mom. So I'm going to tell the story. And I said I wasn't going to cry. I'm sorry. This is the first time I've publicly told his story. And 17 months ago, right there where you're sitting, my world fell apart. I learned, and I was there, that I lost Michael. And I didn't even realize when I said, whoa. I didn't realize when I thought about having this in the foyer that I think it's healing to be back where my trauma started, to be able to tell the story of it in the same room where many of you hugged me and helped me through that day. So this is just the story of Michael. It's not the Becky show. It's just maybe from what I've been through, it might help some of you, and some of you, I hope no one has to go through this, but at least hearing a story, you might be able to help someone else, and what little bit I've learned from it might help a friend or a loved one in the future. So that's my goal for today, just to tell you. I just want to start first and tell you about Michael. He was just the most loving child. He was just kind and funny, quirky funny, encyclopedic knowledge of stuff. Like if you heard a song, he's like, yeah, that's by blah, 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 blah album in 1973. He just had a movie, songs, anything like that. He had so many facts, and he was amazed with geography, and that ended up, he got a globe when he was 3 where he could touch a spot on the globe and it would tell him, this is Uruguay and it has a population blah blah blah, and he memorized the world, and he ended up working as an adult in geographic information systems, so it really impacted his life. And he could tell you, I remember we'd be riding in the car talking about Mexico City. We're like, I wonder what the population is. He'd tell you, and he'd be right. It was just amazing. But Michael, from a young age, he would, I kind of called him my Eeyore. He was that melancholy kid, and kind of grew up into depression and anxiety. I'll give you an example. He was in band in middle school. He played the clarinet and hated it. And his older brother really loved band, and playing instruments is still a part of his life. And so Michael wanted to be a part of it. And so he wanted to play the drums. So I got him a drum set. We took him to lessons, and he started practicing. And over the summer, I talked to the band teacher, and I said, look, he wants to join. Please give him a chance. He hasn't been in band, but he's taking lessons. And so Michael went up to band practice in the summer, and when he walked in, the band director said, well, Michael, yeah, come and show us what you can do. He turned around, walked out, and never picked up a drumstick again in his life. He just had that anxiety that would make things traumatic for him. And that kind of impacted his life in the future. Michael, he told me that in high school, he never drank, never tried anything. He was working and was happy doing that. working for his uncle. And but two things happened to him. He had his wisdom teeth out, and he was given oxycodone for the pain. And then later he had a four-wheeling accident, and again was given oxycodone. When he was in college, he had a hernia surgery, and for the third time, this little flippy just doesn't want to stay. For the third time, he was prescribed oxycodone. And I don't think that third time he ever got off of it. And so I want to tell you that to say oxycodone has a place in medicine. It's really good at helping with pain. But Michael told me later, he said, Mom, I found that when I took oxycodone, it relieved my physical pain, but it relieved all that inner pain that he struggled with. He took it and he was like, wow, I feel happy. Is this what other people feel like? And so I say that to you, just be careful with your children. I think the medical community has learned, and I don't think it's so easily prescribed. I've had prescriptions that I don't fill before, that when I've had things done, I'm like, nope, not going to fill it. I'll take something else. So be careful. It's a dangerous drug, and the way it works is you get a prescription, maybe it says take 2 a day, and pretty soon 2 a day doesn't work, and your pain comes back and you need 3. And a couple days later, 3 is just not quite getting it, the pain's hurting again, and you take 4 a day. And pretty soon your prescriptions run out, or prescriptions have run out, and your pills have run out before your prescriptions, and you're in trouble. And that's how easily it starts. It wouldn't be a national epidemic if that drug was not so addicting. So be careful. Michael got out of college and got a job in geographic information systems, and we moved him to Dallas. He had his own apartment, and he was just doing so well. He was working out at work and just seemed happy, but I know he was constantly off and on. He was trying so hard not to use, and he would go through the that's another part of it, horrible withdrawal, only to find himself in it again. And I was very attuned as a mother. You know, as moms, we kind of have a mom radar, and there were times when I'd call him, and I'd call up at work, and I'm like, I got to go to Dallas in the morning. I'll be in late, but I just got to go. And I'd show up before he left for work and knock on his door, and he'd say, Mom, how'd you know? You know, how'd you know? I'm like, I know, Michael, I needed to come and see you. And that happened many times. I just had that special connection with Michael that, you know, so many of you have with your kids. What happened next was he got in a codependent relationship with a beautiful girl. Her name was Christine. And one of the regrets of my life is my response to Christine. Michael was excited to bring her home. And when she walked in the door, I knew she was an addict. I just knew, in my heart just sank. And, you know, we were, of course, nice and entertained and took them around. And when Michael called me when he got back to Dallas and said, what do you think? And I said, I think she's an addict. And he was heartbroken. And I look back on that and think, how wrong of me. I judged, you know, the splinter in her eye when I had a log in my own. It's like I could see her addiction, but I couldn't see my son's. I could easily point to her, but I just couldn't yet accept that Michael had his own problems. I couldn't see it. I wouldn't see it. I didn't want to see it, I guess. But what happened next? In June of 2017, we went to Dallas for an IOAD convention, and And the very first night, I was rooming with Renee, and I got a call about 3 a.m, and Michael was frantic, and he said Christine had overdosed. Then he found her. And that's something I want to tell you. I think back how different might have, you always do the woulda, coulda, shoulda, but if I had just treated with them with love and said, look, you two, I think you both have a problem. I can see it, and I think you need help. Christine might be here, Michael might be here. I mean, it's too late, but I can say that it's too late for me, but I can say to you that reach out with love. It's love the sinner, hate the sin. Love the alcoholic, hate the alcohol. Love the addict, but hate the addiction. You can reach out with love, and you just never know. But Christine's death was hard on Michael, and I begged him. I'm like, Michael, this is a traumatic event, and you need some counseling. And the hard thing too is he's an adult, and a mama can say things, but an adult. He was telling me he was seeing a counselor. He admitted later I wasn't very honest with her. I'm like, well, that's a waste. What are you doing that for? But he about a few months later, I got a call from him again, and we were, like I say, we had a connection, and he was really honest with me. And he said, when he called, he said, Mom, don't freak out. He said, I tried to kill myself last night. I took a bottle full of pills, but she said, Mom, I woke up and threw up, and I think that saved my life. Number one, I was grateful he called me. First thing, I said, Michael, his sister at the time, Dina, lived about 5 minutes away in Dallas. I said, Dina's going to come get you. She's going to bring you home. You're going to be okay. And she did, and we sat down and talked, and he finally admitted, I have a problem and I need some help. Now, what do? How do you get help? That's hard. I mean, this wasn't supposed to happen to my family. I'm a teacher. I've been, with my kids all through school, where this doesn't happen to us. So we just started looking on the internet. I mean, what else you do? You just start looking, and I said, first thing, Michael, you've got to go to work and you've got to tell him what's going on. And so I drove him up to his work, and he told his boss, and she cried and said, Michael, I have a brother who's an addict as well. I understand. It's going to be okay. We're going to get you on FMLA leave. And they reached out with love, not with judgment. They loved him. And so then we started looking. We narrowed it down to 3 places that on the internet seemed, we didn't know. And so we made appointments to come visit 3 facilities. And the first one was in Denton. It was kind of a juvenile facility. And he's like, no, this is for kids. It's, I don't feel comfortable coming there as an adult. And then we went to one, I don't even know, way out in the country, Argyle or somewhere, I don't know. But it was more like a plush executive rehab place. And he's like, no, in his words, this is way too bougie for me. And so then we went to a place in Arlington called the Greenhouse, and it was urban, very diverse, people young to old. And he's like, okay, I feel comfortable here. I feel like this will be a fit. So we talked to him, and luckily his insurance would pay for a lot of it, which is like the other, they had a limit. The other place, the bougie one, $35,000. He was only making like $38,000 at the time. We couldn't afford $35,000. I mean, if I needed to, I would have done something. But this place, the insurance, it took the insurance, and the next day we went to enroll, and we were in intake, and the counselor said, one of the questions they had to ask is, are you suicidal? And he said, every second of every day. And I, of course, broke down, and intake immediately stopped. And they said, you can't come here. You need to go across town to Millwood Psychiatric Hospital first. And so that's something else I've learned that I want you to know, is that insurance doesn't often pay for a co-occurring disorder. They want you to go over here and get treated for mental illness and go over here and get treated for drug abuse, when in reality, they go together. If anything, I believe that for many, drug use it's an escape from something else, an escape from mental illness or trauma or abuse or boredom or not fitting in. It's an escape, and it's complicated and multi-layered and very, very hard to get to the root of the problem. But we did. We went to Millwood like they told us to. He checked himself in. Most likely, most of you don't know anything about Millwood, but I will tell you, it's probably the closest thing to a prison I've ever been in. You walk in the door and it locks behind you. And you walk into an intake room and it locks behind you. And they take you to another room and it locks behind you. 2 orderlies eventually came and led him through a door. And, I said goodbye to my son as they walked him down the hallway with the door that locked behind him. When we would go to visit, you had to keep your keys and your purse and your phone and everything in the car and line up and go through the locked doors to a lunchroom that was sterile and code and had tables bolted to the floor. And it just reminded me of a scene from a movie where they're visiting someone in prison, and that's what it was like. And that's how the mental illness are often treated, which, again, something wrong. But he did his 10 days at Millwood, went straight into, they took him, I think, by ambulance to the treatment center, and he did his 30 days there. And he came home, and his office allowed him to work from home, which at the time, this is pre-COVID, that was unheard of. He was working, they brought his work computer to our house, and he was working there and seemed to be getting better, but he didn't like being in Granbury. He missed Dallas, he missed his friends. And I left to go visit my daughter on my birthday in Nashville. It was December. And while I was there, he called and he said, "Mom, I have a gun in my hand and I need you to tell me that my life is worth saving." And here I am, I'm in the car, and I get this call from him, and I'm like, I'm saying all the things a mother would say. And my brother-in-law, Todd, he went over to the house and talked to Michael and took the gun, which we didn't even own guns. We inherited this gun and we weren't sure what to do with it yet. And I had it hidden in the top of a closet, and I still don't know why he even was looking up there to find it. But we were rushed home the next day. We went back to Millwood because that's what everybody says to do. That's what you do when this happens. And he checked himself in again. He came out that last time and said, "Mom, I'll never go back there. I'll never go back." I'm like, "Michael, we're going to get through this together. We're gonna be okay." He came back to the house and he wasn't okay. Michael had an alcohol problem as well. He was an alcoholic. He wouldn't do things in the house. He was very respectful of us for the most part, but he would sit out in his car and he would drink. He would go to the store and buy something and drink. And then we found we had to get a lock on our bedroom door so that he couldn't come in and out. And one day I found he had rigged something over the door when I came home from work trying to get into our bedroom. It got stuck, so I saw it. I'm like, "Michael, he had drank NyQuil." I found an empty container in his room, and finally his dad and I sat him down and did the hardest thing we've ever done in our life. We said, "You can't live here anymore. We can't have you here if you can't stay clean and sober." We're not going to enable you to do that. We're not going to provide a place for you to do that. And we had him pack up his things and leave, not knowing where he was going or what he was going to do. And we didn't hear from him for about a week, and I was so scared. But I want to tell you that was probably the best thing we could have done, because I'm so proud of him. He found a sober living house, and he checked himself in. In a sober living house, if you don't know, a lot of people, when they leave treatment centers, they go to sober living or a group home, and they have drug tests, random drug tests all the time, and you can stay as long as your tests are drug-free. And this house was self-run, self-governed, so he became a leader. He was a mentor to people showing up. He would talk, and he was so proud of it, and we felt so good for him. And then out of the blue, one day he called me and said, I was kicked out today. I failed a drug test. And that's the thing about drugs. They can just be doing so well, but that pull when life gets hard, of remembering what that feeling felt like, where life, that lie, that life is good in the drug, it's that lie is such a pull. So he then left and found a bedroom. He rented a bedroom in a house in Garland. A young man owned this house, and he was renting all his bedrooms out to people because he was probably in his early 30s with this large home. And he did better for a while. He got a girlfriend. And for the first time, he seemed happy, and we really thought, this is it. He was talking about how he could see himself having a family with her. She had a son, and we thought, it's going to be okay. And then COVID hit, and he was isolated to his bedroom, working on the computer at work, and he didn't do well with that. And eventually his girlfriend said, it's me, or it's, you've got to be drug free, or, what are you going to choose? And he said, I can't promise you that I can do that. And they broke up, and I don't blame her at all. I don't blame her. She had a child, and that was really hard for him. Then it just spiraled from there. He lost his job next, which he loved his job. He was respected in what he did. But he wasn't doing a good job at that point. He had a new boss, and that was devastating. So he called me again one night, and we were talking, and I said, Michael, are you having suicidal ideation? And he said, Mom, I'm hanging on by a thread. And he just kept saying, I'm hanging on by a thread. And I hung up the phone, and I called my niece, and I said, Terry, you got to get over there. I'm on my way. Get over there and just make sure, put eyes on him, make sure he's okay. And I got there, and I brought him home. And at first he stayed up in his room, and he cried, and he'd come down for dinner, and he was just sad. But he started getting better, started helping out, and started doing things. And we're like, okay, we're going to get through this. I had brought him home, so on a Monday, Dean took him back to Garland to get his things, and he was going to move home. He didn't have a job; he couldn't afford staying there, and he didn't come home that night. And I was so angry. He left one day, and he can't even come home. What's he doing? I remember being angry with him that day at lunch. On a Monday, it was Tuesday then, I called my daughter, and I'm like, Michael's not home. What is he doing? The first chance he gets, is he using again? What? I came back to work. Excuse me, this is gross, but anyway. 1:15, that's when I got the call. And he had overdosed on both, the autopsy revealed both alcohol and opioids. So thank you. Thank you. Stood in my pants leg. So I tell you all this to tell you that, first of all, no one wants to become an addict or a substance abuse user or an alcoholic. No one ever thinks they're going to get into that and become that. And oh my gosh, we had every talk you can have as a parent. And he would tell Mom, I'm not stupid. But drugs are insidious and they work their way in, and it's just a dangerous game to play. And especially when, for him, it was a co-occurring disorder with his mental illness. I believe that drug addicts, or they say that's not politically correct anymore, but anyway, they want help. They want help. In fact, there's a White House survey that says 4 out of 5 people with substance abuse issues, they want help. But where do you get it? How do you get it? How do you afford it? If you don't have insurance, if you don't have a job, what do you do? It's not as easy as go get some help. There's the myth that you got to hit rock bottom before you can get help. That isn't true. The fact is most people have to hit rock bottom before they can get help. Then finally there's an emergency situation and they can get some help that they need. But up to that point, it's really hard. It's hard to find a therapist. I'm in therapy from all of this, and it's hard to find somebody. You got to try to find somebody that works with your insurance, and most of the good ones don't. Or the ones that are recommended to you, they don't. And it's a couple $100 every visit. There's something wrong in this world with mental illness and the care we have for people with substance abuse issues. I don't know what the answer is, but it's going to be something I work on for the rest of my life. I don't know how, but somehow. So what can you do? Just don't judge. That stigma, again, love the addict, love the alcoholic, love the mentally ill, hate what they're going through, but understand if they could be different, they would. They don't want this for themselves. This isn't what they want. They don't know how to, for the most part, they don't know how to get out. Keep the lines of communication open. Man, Michael called me, and love them, but it's not enough. If love could have solved it, it would have, because Michael needed help. He called his mama, and I love that kiddo. I still love him. I'm not ashamed of him at all, but love wasn't enough. He needed a team of support. If you have heart disease, you have a cardiologist looking at you. You have maybe a dietitian helping you with what you eat. You have your family doctor. They're checking your cholesterol. You have a team of people helping you. But when he needed help, where was his team? He even went to places and he was just told, here's your prescriptions. Good luck. There wasn't a team waiting for him. I mean, when I've had surgeries, they're like, we made you an appointment. It's going to be on this date at this time, and you know what to do. He didn't know. We didn't know what to do. We need to change insurance. I don't know. There needs to be a team. You're going to need, if this happens to you, you're going to need a psychiatrist, someone who can monitor specialized brain drugs for the brain, because drug use changes the brain. And the thing is, a lot of people take it, like, I can only speak for Michael, to help with depression, but taking the drug and getting off of it makes you even more depressed. It's a vicious circle. You're going to need a psychiatrist. You're going to need a therapist to work through what are these underlying issues. What are you going to do? You need a good family doctor who doesn't view your child with a cold heart. I don't know what else to say. And then there's something else we haven't even talked about. A new addition, and the autopsy showed Michael didn't have this in his system, but now there's fentanyl. This is a scary drug. It's in everything from marijuana to fake Adderall to heroin. It's everywhere because it's cheap and the people who sell drugs can mix it in. And it's highly addictive. And, excuse me. It's highly addictive. In 2020, there were 92,000 overdose deaths in the United States. And of those, 69,000 were from opioids, that horrible addictive drug I told you about. And of those, 75% were fentanyl laced. This is a serious issue because one pill can kill. One pill can kill. You might have a kid in college taking an exam and he thinks, I need something to help me focus, and roommate says, I got some Adderall. It's going to help you focus, help you concentrate. It's laced with fentanyl. One pill can kill. So I do want to talk to you all about Narcan. This is something that if you have a kid in college, I think you can buy this without a prescription. And I think I'd send it to them because they may not need it, but they may have a friend who does. Or if they live in a dorm, this saves lives. This is a spray. They were giving it out free last night at a International Overdose Day gathering on the square. This contains 2 nasal sprays, and I have some handouts up here, different types of overdoses and what it looks like, what you need to do, what you need to not do. But in the case of opioids, some of the telltale signs are blue lips and just a gurgling like breath, because what opioids does is it slows down your breathing and you just stop breathing. So when the body's still trying to breathe, if you spray this in one nasal cavity, spray, wait 2 minutes. If they don't wake up, spray again. And of course, you're going to call 911 first. Wait another 2 minutes, spray again. It can take 3, sometimes 4, because fentanyl is so powerful. And if they wake up, that doesn't mean they can't OD again. You need emergency help. There's been cases where people do come out of an overdose and they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm fine. And then they overdose later this is a temporary fix when this wears off. So it's important I think, to have this. Young kids need to have it. And man, tell your kids they can't anymore experiment with any kind of pills or any kind of drug. I mean, back in the 80s, people were trying things and we can live through it because it wasn't laced with fentanyl. And now they may have one party and that could be it. So I just want to warn you and tell you this might be something you want to look at getting for your family, just in case. Our secondary counselors have all been, not counselors, nurses have been trained how to use this. And I think it definitely can save lives. So that's my story pretty much. I want to take a minute to light our candle and just have a moment of silence and for all the people who've lost their lives to overdose or been affected by overdose, because when you stop breathing, your brain stops getting oxygen, and a lot of people come out of it and they're never the same again. And then also just to think about all of the families who've lost loved ones. I mean, mine's just one story, and there's in 1 year 69,000 others. There's 69,000 other families that have had, a hole ripped in their hearts. So anyway, I'll just take a minute to light the candle. I think. Here it goes, my little candle. thank all of you for allowing me the grace and the space here to share my story, Michael's story, our story. I appreciate it. I don't know what my future holds, but there's something that I need to do with this. I don't know what it is, but that's going to be my goal after retirement, is finding out that what is it that I'm supposed to do with this that's happened, this story. But thank you. I love all of you for being here and supporting me, and